Hi, boys and girls. I'm going to be reading to you the story Anne Frank, The Girl Heard Around the World by Linda Elovitz Marshall. Illustrations by Aura Lewis. Anne Frank, The Girl Heard Around the World. All her life, Anne Frank wanted to be heard, really, truly heard. As a baby, Anne cried, loud. As a toddler, she was silly and made everyone laugh. And as a little girl, she spoke her mind. But sometimes no one listened. Some things were hard to talk about, and sometimes it seemed like no one understood. Anne was born on June 12, 1929, in Frankfurt, Germany. Her family, like many other Jewish families, had lived in Germany for centuries. But a few years after Anne was born, life there changed. A man named Adolf Hitler came into power and took over the government. Hitler and his followers, the Nazis, blamed the Jews for the country's problems. Everyone who was Jewish, including Anne and her family, was in danger. Anne was 4 when her family left Germany in search of safety. They moved to Amsterdam, the capital city of a neighboring country called the Netherlands. There, Anne learned to speak Dutch, to ride a bike, and to read and write. Anne liked making mischief. From the balcony of her second-floor apartment, she occasionally sprinkled water on people walking below. In school, she talked and talked. She especially liked telling jokes and riddles. But in 1940, when Anne was 11, Hitler and the Nazis took over the Netherlands too. Life for Jews became just as dangerous there as it was in Germany. The Nazis enforced strict rules on all Jews. No one was allowed to speak out against the Nazis. Anyone who spoke out could be arrested and killed. And yet, Anne needed to talk to someone. She needed to be heard, really, truly heard. On her 13th birthday, Anne received a gift, a red plaid diary with a lock and a key. Anne named her diary Kitty. Anne wrote to Kitty about everything. She shared her feelings, her thoughts, the things buried deep in her heart. She wrote about new rules that stopped her, and all Jews, from riding bikes, going to movies, playing in public parks, and attending public school. New rules that made her wear a Star of David on her clothing. Anne wrote about being called a chatterbox by her teacher in her all-Jewish school, about a poem she wrote about chatterboxes, and how the poem won her teacher's praise. Anne realized that by writing, she could speak her mind in any new way. She could really, truly be heard. One morning in 1942, just a few weeks after her 13th birthday, Anne's mother woke her very early. It was time to flee. It had become too dangerous to be Jewish in Amsterdam. Anne and her family were going into hiding. Anne put on all the clothes she could. She gathered her most treasured things. She packed her diary first. Anne, her sister, mother, and father moved into a secret annex in the back of a warehouse. The warehouse was part of the business her father had once owned. 4 other people went into hiding with them. All were Jewish, all in need of a safe place. Only a few trusted, non-Jewish friends knew where Anne and the others went. These friends still worked in the warehouse, making it easier for them to deliver food and supplies. In hiding, Anne tried to continue her normal life. She decorated a wall with movie star photos. She kept up with her studies, and she read and read and read. But life in hiding was difficult and lonely. During the day, everyone in hiding had to tiptoe and whisper. If the workers in the warehouse below discovered them, Anne and the others could be arrested. An arrest would mean prison or worse. Instead of telling jokes, chattering with friends, and making mischief, Anne became quiet. Sometimes she was very quiet. But Anne couldn't stay quiet for long. Now Anne wrote about her life in hiding. She told it all. She wrote what she could not say. She wrote about birthdays and holidays, about missing her friends, about wishing she could hear birds sing. She wrote about giving her father a haircut, about playing with the warehouse cat, about gazing out the attic window, looking at people below. Anne wrote about longing for nature, sunlight, and freedom. She wrote about being afraid, about hearing bombings from the skies above. She wrote about wishing people could live together in peace. When the closeness got too much, 8 people together, always together, day after day after day, Anne wrote. Anne spoke her mind to Kitty, who was always there to listen, always there to understand. When Anne argued with her mother or felt jealous of her sister, when she thought she was about to cry, Anne wrote what she could not say. When Anne got angry because someone wanted to read her diary or scolded her for saying the wrong thing, Anne wrote what she could not say. Unable to go outside, Anne imagined and wrote stories about a teddy bear off to see the world, a good fairy who made people happy, a kindly grandmother who became her granddaughter's guardian angel. When water spilled, soaking her work, Anne, heartsick and almost in tears, rushed to rescue her pages. She would not let her words be drowned. For 2 years in hiding, Anne wrote what she could not speak. She hoped that when the war was over, she might publish a book about life in the secret annex. But on August 4th, 1944, Nazi police discovered the secret hiding place. Anne, her family, and their friends were captured and arrested. They were taken away to prisons, and worse. After the Nazi police left, a friend who had helped Anne and the others gathered Anne's diary and writings. She kept them safe, hoping that when the war was over, she could return them to Anne. Anne died in the winter of 1945, just weeks before the war ended. Of the 8 Jews in hiding, only her father survived. After the war ended, that friend gave the diary and writings to Anne's father. He published them in a book known around the world as Anne Frank, The Diary of a Young Girl. Since then, Anne's writings and her diary have been translated into 70 languages. The war had tried to silence her, but Anne told it all. She wrote what she could not say, and the whole world heard. Anne Frank, the girl heard around the world. Anne Frank was born on June 12, 1929, in Frankfurt, Germany. She was the younger of Otto and Edith Frank's 2 children and part of a Jewish family that had lived in Germany for generations. When Hitler and the Nazis took over Germany in 1933, all Jews throughout Germany were in danger. Others were in danger too, including gay people, the Romani people, people with disabilities, Jehovah's Witnesses, Afro-Germans, and political descendants. Seeking safety, Anne and her family left their homeland to settle in the Netherlands in 1934. But Hitler's troops were on the move. Hitler's troops took over Poland in 1939, then the Netherlands in 1940. Hitler and the Nazis planned to kill all the Jews in Europe, including Anne. Fearing for their lives, the Frank family and 4 other people, all Jewish, the Van Pels family and Fritz Pfeffer, went into hiding. While in hiding, Anne poured her feelings into her diary. She wrote what she could not say. She hoped that the war would soon end and that she would be free. That didn't happen. On August 4th, 1944, their hiding place was discovered. All of the people in hiding in the secret annex were arrested, imprisoned, and sent to Nazi concentration camps. Anne and her sister Margot died in February or March 1945. The exact date is not known. 5 of the others, including Anne's mother, were gassed to death or died of illness. The only survivor was Anne's father, Otto Frank. After the war, he received Anne's diary from Miep Gase, one of the trusted non-Jewish helpers who had sustained the 8 people in hiding and who, after the arrest, gathered Anne's diary and writings and hid them from the Nazis. Anne's diary, first published in 1947, is among the world's most read books, translated into 70 languages, with more than 30 million copies sold. The end.